everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Rangers. We're here with Bill from KGRA is our producing today, and so we've got a interesting show today. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the news just prior to us getting on, and I'm sure everybody's aware of that. It's already gone pretty much around the world. Michelle happened to be just a mile away from that incident when it went down, and she was actually locked down for about an hour, you said?
Yeah.
And then allowed to leave because everything was being locked down in the area. So she was a little bit rattled, to say the least. But it just reminds me, and we were just talking about this a couple of minutes ago, that we live in a violent country and we live in a violent time. And what I find interesting about what goes on in the world today is that unlike 30 years ago, when we didn't have internet, you had a dial up and you had to hear all this, squeal, 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 and then it would take like 2 or 3 minutes for a page to load up, a line at a time. And, I can remember, having to wait for pages to load up like that. And
with America
now,
Online, AOL.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
And I think you paid for the page. You paid every page that was downloaded, and it took forever. Now we get our information immediately, and it goes all around the world immediately. And false information goes out the same way. I was looking at a streaming a platform the other day, and I saw something that was obviously AI generated, but they put it out there as real. And it just amazed me that what people will do to get attention or to have, people look at their little videos. And, people still want attention today. They have their political beliefs that, nobody else, if you're in opposition to them, well, that I'm going to drop a manifesto and I'm going to go after the people I don't like. And that's unfortunately the kind of atmosphere we have today. And, in our podcast here, we don't try to change the world. We try to change our tiny little corner of the world where we're at. So just as an opening statement. Stan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I spent the first part of this week out at Canyon du Chat with some good friends of mine, and we had a wonderful day. Well, you couldn't ask for more perfect weather, blue skies, blue skies. We had a picnic that day, and it was really great. So with the family that I'm friends with, we had a really great day. So I'm great.
Yeah, just so everybody out there realizes, in Arizona, it's kind of a joke because every time you get good weather, the Forest Service decides to burn down some of the forests to keep the underbrush from growing too much and having. So they try to manage forest fires, and so what we get is smoke that comes over the Navajo Nation. So we just laugh and say, well, we're being blessed, with all the smudging smoke coming our way, with all the pine needles burning and the cedar trees.
That's crazy.
But we try to joke about it, but boy, you wait till that smoke shifts and goes over a town or a city, and people start complaining, my asthma, my this, my that, I can't breathe, and the Forest Service will stop their operations. But if it's just blowing up to the reservation, they don't care. And I'm pretty sure we've got a lot more asthma cases these days. Michelle, how are you doing? I talked to you earlier, and I know that you're a little bit frazzled from all that excitement.
Well, yeah, it was an interesting experience because I was sitting in a business meeting. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
I was
coming
sitting in a business meeting, and one of my associates came running through our door and shouting that this individual had been shot at one of the local colleges, and we were about 1 mile away, and they locked down, heard, sirens and everything going on. So when we got the news of who it was like, wow, in our community, really? This really happened? In a really nice town of a little place in here in Utah. So it was quite shocking to the community, and I feel very, it's hard to take in as a community member because we're here um, seeing a tragedy occur and to a visiting person from another state themselves and trying to bring good messages to the crowd. And these college students were enjoying that. My heart goes out to those college students who were there and that they were able to heal, just being rattled the way I was a little bit because it's not something this happens every day. And so blessings to the family who have lost their father and the children and a wife. And that is a tragedy because Utah is a family state, and we regard our families very, very seriously. So, yeah, a little rattled. Yeah. And, somewhat of a little bit PTSD, right, John? Because you and I talked it through, and these things do happen. And we just have to move forward and just keep out of the fear. And this is what this show is about, keeping out of the fear. And that's my message today.
Yeah, it's things happen all the time, especially, we're not really prepared a lot of times. We don't look forward to anything happening, and all of a sudden it hops up in front of us, smacks us in the face, and reminds us, especially when it comes to people, passing away. Sometimes it's very violent. It happens suddenly. It could be a car accident, could be a heart attack, and we're our minds are not ready for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't deal with death very often. It's just one of those things that we try to shy away from, and that's why we have funeral homes. Back in the day, families would take care of their own burials, and I thought that was really interesting that even Navajos would have a specific family that would take care of the burials within that particular clan. And, because they had prohibitions against handling the dead. So there's culturally, everybody shies away from that subject.
We've gotten away from a community-oriented society. Back in the day, what you talked about, John, especially on the reservation, in different villages, different communities, when one family would experience some type of tragedy or adversity, the community would come together and rally around that family, whether it was financially or emotionally or whatever it could be. And especially going further back with the different indigenous peoples and different Native American tribes in this country, they would rally around to help people get through whatever it is they were experiencing. And people had different roles, just like what you had mentioned about burials and when during the process that when a person has passed, and all of those things that have to come together for that family. But we've lost that, and we really, as a nation, politically, you can see as what happened today, that division and that divide. Back in the day, people could have differences in their political views, but we respected each other's opinion and we respected each other's view. People had different sets of values and morals, and we've kind of gotten away from that. It's we live today in a me world. The entire universe revolves around me, and my opinion is the only thing that counts. And that's a sad way to exist. And we really need to get back to the root of a society that helps each other. And I mean, John, your career, my career, that's what we did. We were there to help people, even with the paranormal. That was our task, is to help, even if it was something that we weren't really rooted in and things that we understood. We had to go out and educate ourselves, with groups like MUFON and Bigelow and all of them, different agencies.
So I just got a text from the former post commander of the police force here in Utah, and this is what he said. Yes, it is a tragic day, regardless of one's political ideologies, but the tragedy is a young wife family lost a father, and it's harder and it's awful, but people are not seeing the light. And that is so true. And I thought that was apropos to what we're talking about. It is a tragedy, but we got to start seeing the light. And I think this show is one of those shows that we try to give people the light to move forward, to help each other. I can call up John, or I can call up Stan, and you guys can help me through this awful tragedy, because it really does, hit you really hard. I'm empathic, and John had to remind me of that today, that's what I was feeling, the sadness. And now we have to turn it into a light situation where we start to love one another and get rid of the ideologies, the political ideologies that exist in our world today.
Look at all of the different tribes that we represent, just the three of us.
Right.
Yet we always come together to support each other. We were raised that way, to think like that.
Yeah, the one of the things that occurred to me is that when I was growing up, when I was a little child, I can remember that up and down the street, you knew who was who.
Mm-hmm.
You knew all your neighbors. You played with their kids. Everybody knew everybody in the community, and that doesn't happen anymore. Now we live somewhere we don't know anybody, and and we're so transient. And now we just get on the computer, and all our friends are there.
It's crazy where we're going today, but it's wonderful that we are all human, treat one another with mutual agreement. And I'm liking what the audience is saying today, and I'm showing a little bit here as I scroll down. I'm seeing all these wonderful comments, and that this one talked about demonizing each other. We should be respecting each other and not demonizing each other, where sadly devolves into hate. And I think we're living in the world of hate right now, and we got to stop that.
True.
Yeah, I've always said this, and I'll say it again. The pendulum is swinging. And I always say that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that pendulum is going to keep swinging until it reaches the end, and it's going to start swinging back the other way. And hopefully we'll get back to some good values and living the lives we were meant to live. Because you see, beyond all the headlines, beyond all of this, what we're trying to get across to everybody is that it's up to us individually to live good lives, to live meaningful lives.
and to teach those things, those values to our children, that violence isn't the answer. I mean,
Mm-mm.
we
Mm-mm.
look around the world at the different conflicts and wars and things, and to me, you know, just the loss of one single child's life is too much. It's too heavy of a price to pay. And
Right.
and we're seeing that around the world. And but there's other solutions. We can all sit down at the same table and discuss these issues and work things out, come to a compromise. It's like I said before, it's not all about me and what I want, and your opinion don't count. And again, that's a uh, very sad way to live your life. We can be in such a place of peace, and you know yesterday when we were out at Canyon de Chelly, the peace and solitude of being out in some of those areas at the edge of the canyon, just the tranquility is so incredible. It's
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable, and a lot of people have lost that. A lot of people have lost that. It's important. We need that for our own spirituality and mindfulness and well-being. We need to be able to think and listen and to help each other. And like uh, what somebody has commented, love. And and really, our root purpose on this planet is to love each other, to help each other, support each other, and protect each other.
Being honest says energy can be changed. If someone wrongs you, take the higher road, and I'll send positive energy to the universe, affecting many, many people. And that's how community works. This is not just a local tragedy; it is a nationwide tragedy because it affects our whole nation. And so, let's put love and prayers for the family, for our nation to become more at peace. And you talk about tranquility, Stan. I agree. Now, this is going to change how Utah views its safety with law enforcement, and areas. If we have somebody important that comes to our state, those are going to change those safety factors. And where before we trusted, and so the trust goes out the door. And I appreciate everybody's comments today.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do thank you for your comments, and they are very appropriate. Um, you know, like we said, the thing about today's incident is that this stuff happens every single day. It's just that the other people that this happens to are not well known. They could be um, the homeless person down the street that got stabbed in the middle of the night.
Right.
Could be somebody getting in a bar fight and losing their life. Could be a whole bunch of different things. Just somebody driving down the road and falling asleep and veering off the side of the road and crashing. Uh, and there's it doesn't matter if the person is well known or famous, or if they're just somebody. It could be somebody from your family. And how we live our lives is so important. How we live every day. We can't change the world, but we can change our little tiny place in that big world. That little corner where we are, we can change that little section and influence the people directly around us.
John, I'm putting on a tough face right now because we're on air. But my heart is wanting to get the emotions out, and I feel for the community. I feel for the family, and it's there. I mean, you know, um, it is tough when you
Yeah,
when you as a community experience all this stuff. And I am not without emotions. It is there, and that's the thing, is it's good to have these emotions because it means I'm still feeling, and I and the feeling, if we quit feeling things and we go and create these tragedies, is people have lost the sensitivity within themselves and for others. And it's very important to stay in that emotion and to
Yeah.
feel. Mm-hmm.
And for everybody's information, like we said, Michelle is an empath. An empath is somebody who can sense feelings. And sometimes if you go to a really crowded place, it gets almost overwhelming. And you literally have to put earplugs in so you don't hear all the murmuring and all the talk around you, because it's too much. It's too much emotions all around you. Um, you know that happens, and that's a good way to kind of dispel that, or wear headphones with noise canceling ability, and just get into your own little space.
Mm-hmm.
So for me and Stan, we were trained in law enforcement that if you can be empathetic, but if you allow that to control you,
Exactly.
you get to an accident scene and people are mangled and people are hurting and screaming, and you need to do something. You have to kind of put that in a box and work beyond it, because if you don't do anything, nobody else will. And people's lives are counting on you being able to do your job. So Stan and I have both been there many, many times, and we compartmentalize, and it's still shocking, it's still upsetting, but you have to move through that and just keep on living your life and trying to help people.
I think one
Well,
thing that will happen in my community, in our community, because it's our community, it's the world's community, because, yeah, he was a famous person, but it also reminds us that we all will come together and in prayers and energies and look at our own family and embrace our children, embrace each other.
I think when a tragedy like this happens, I think it, if anything, we need to look at that situation and realize that there's a better solution to this than violence. You know
Yeah.
that there's other solutions beside this. I seen just the other day where a young girl that was riding on a bus, was randomly stabbed, and she bled on that on that bus, and there was no connection between the person that randomly stabbed her and it's just the senseless violence. He was apprehended later, but the young woman lost her life, and she didn't deserve that.
The damage was done. You
Right.
know, we can talk about prevention tactics. You guys are trained in those, and I know that this is a paranormal show, but this is important to the world. And I think the message is that the Rangers, you guys have been trained in police tactics and what to do in these kind of cases. But for the audience, maybe there's some that don't understand. John has says, keep a cool head. And in these things, it happens every day somewhere in the world that we we lose control of our tempers, our anger, ideologies, whatever it is. We need to hold on to that control and use a different outlet, not violence. And that's why we have wars today, and that's why they're trying to be contained today, those wars. And there's one war in the Middle East that's been going for what, 5,000 years, maybe more, millennia. And it just because somebody didn't agree with something or with somebody's ideology. So we are playing in that world today, and it is tragic when these things do happen. And keep a cool head and love. Just come together as communities, start looking at the positive in love and light.
In law enforcement, we were trained that there's different levels of awareness in your environment.
Mm-hmm.
John had mentioned earlier, and basically reflecting on this state of mind that is in a state of white, where everything around you is safe, and maybe you're on vacation or you're on the beach and everything seems benign, and you know, you're not thinking about any threats. But today, when you go out in the world, whether it's going grocery shopping, to the movie theater, out to dinner, you know, John and I, in our law enforcement career, when we would go in, if we were afforded to have a sit down lunch or a sit down meal, we would tactically position ourselves where we're eating our dinner, where we can watch. We know where the exits are and the doors, and who comes and goes, and so you would be at a more elevated state of mind, maybe, you know, in a state of yellow. So there's gradual steps that were reflected in colors. And John, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that to people.
Well, you have different color schemes. So code white would be just, you know, you're just tra la 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 going about your day, you know, not being aware of anything around you. You're just focused on doing what you need to do to get through the day or whatever chores or tasks you have. Then you get into the yellow zone where you're aware of things around you, and you start looking at people. Are they a threat? Could they be a threat? How are you going to handle it, you know, if something happens? And Stan sent me a picture the other day. Somebody had a T-shirt on that said, you know, treat everybody with respect and have a way to take them out if you need to. And that's really true, because that's one of the sayings that I live by, is treat everybody with the utmost honor and respect and have a way to take them out if you need to. So you're always in this yellow orange area, and then from there it goes to red, which means that there is active danger nearby, and it can go to, we call it black, where something has happened and now you're just your job is to survive. And we used to teach our officers, during firearms training, you might have a hole in you to start with, and you need to get out of that situation, treat yourself, stabilize what you can, and survive. You know, you got loved ones at home, but this idea that you're just going to go in like a gunfighter and come out unscathed, that doesn't happen very often. Most gunfights occur at a distance of 10 feet or under, and there's only usually two and a half rounds exchanged, and you know, somebody's going to end up.
We've seen situations where you'd have an officer that would be inflicted, you know, of a superficial wound. Maybe they were wounded in the thigh in some way, or one of their extremities, and they would actually sit down and succumb to that. They would actually die from that, what is really a superficial wound. Yet there would be other individuals. I've seen training videos where an officer was shot in the face with a 12 gauge shotgun, and they lost their whole lower part of their mouth. You know, they didn't even have a jawbone there, but this individual had it in his mind that he was going to survive, and he did. And today, you know, he's had operation after operation after operation and reconstruction, but he survived that because of his mindset that he wasn't going to allow this individual to take his life. So, you know, in our daily lives, you know, we can be out on the street and encounter road rage and things like that just out of the blue, and you have to think about your safety. You have to think about your family's safety. and about getting through these things, and not only with these kind of violent acts, but even in the world where you have floods and tornadoes and earthquakes and all of these kind of things. We have to change our mindset to be better prepared.
I think this is kind of a little bit off subject, but I have been watching these YouTube channels that talked about things that we used to have in the 1950s. And one of the comments that was made in the documentary saying, remember the time that we used to go to the next door neighbor and we had a cup in our hand and we could borrow sugar? And do you remember the time that we used to talk to our neighbor over the fence? And today we come in from work, we park our car, have family dinner, maybe.
Yeah.
And sit down at a home cooked meal like in the 50s they did. The connection is going away. We're not connecting to one another. That's another element of the violence.
Yeah, and in my career, I was able to take training at Gunsight Academy, which is in Paulden, Arizona. They are internationally recognized as one of the best firearm schools in the world. And I got to attend 6 classes there. And when I was there, one of my instructors was a former member of SEAL Team 6.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually gave me some of the best advice I ever had. They have a drill. It's called a donga. And the donga is that you take your pistol and you go through this wash system. And they have reactive targets that are in there. They're metal targets, but they're only about, 14 inches tall or so. And they're real small, and they're painted camouflage. And when you go through this thing, you have to identify them in the crevices and stuff and shoot at them. And I went around a corner and I saw one and I shot at it, and the instructor says, look behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked on the other side of the wash, and there was another metal plate standing there. And I remember my reaction is, oh, shoot, I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, holster, ears off, take your headset off. And he pretty much dressed me down right on the spot. And what he told me is that he says, you are never dead. You can always do one more thing. So get that out of your mind. Don't ever listen to that voice inside your head.
Right.
And that stuck with me. And that's what I taught my students later on that were police officers, is that you can always do one more thing. You're never out of it, no matter what happens. And, likewise, you take that and you flip it over into your regular everyday life. Yeah, we experience defeats on minor scales. We didn't get a promotion, or somebody said something bad about us, and you're trying to do damage control, or somebody in the family says bad things about you, and yet you don't have to give up. You can keep going. And sometimes I always tell people, living well is the best revenge.
That's right. So, you do say that.
So, if you pick yourself up, you live yourself with the attitude, with the teachings, with everything, and just let those things go by you. Just remember, in other people's minds, you're living in their minds rent free.
Well, to me, all of those little setbacks that we experience in everyday life, whether we're going down the road and we spill the coffee in our lap, or these kind of things, these are life lessons. every single day, so that tomorrow, we can take what it is we've experienced, no matter how bad, no matter how tragic, and try to live a better life tomorrow, and one that is safer, and one that is where we are there to help others and protect our children, and so what you mentioned earlier, Michelle, about back in the day when you could borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbor, or uh, somebody mentioned sitting down at the dinner table and talking to your children, and I know somebody that does that. Somebody from Rainbow Food Rocks does that very thing with their children. The children don't have cell phones, that they're sitting there buried in, and with their face buried in the phone, and they have very deep discussions like what's going on, what happened today, and I think so many families have lost that, but that's how you get through these kind of tragic situations, is through discussion, and so.
Well, that's why I go camping with my family. So you guys know I camp a lot and I like to go.
Right.
Now you know why, because I was on a camping trip with my son, and we had some intense talks on the Friday, and we resolved some issues. And but how often do you get to be out in nature and really get down to the depths of conversation that you talked about, Stan? And that's one reason why I love camping. You get to connect to people without all the technology around, with all the disturbances of the real world. And I was able to do that with friends this summer, and it was one of the best spiritual experiences that we had as a group. We just felt each other, and I think that's what brings this. And I sound very etheric today, but this is what I've been experiencing lately. And when this showed up today, I was like, why Utah? And you know what I mean? This is a loving family state. And but it does happen everywhere. I mean, John got me abreast of that. It happens everywhere, Michelle. But in the moment you're thinking about why? And because it's just one unnecessary trauma that a family needed. And
well, that's one thing that John and I have found, in our career, doing especially the paranormal, investigating paranormal cases, is that there is always, and there always will be, that yin yang, where you have polar opposites of these things. Yes, like you mentioned, Utah is a very positive and family oriented state, and very beautiful state, but at any given time there can and will be the very worst, the negative things like that. And John and I experienced that in our career. We would be almost home, and there would be a fatal accident all of a sudden, and you might have children that have lost their lives, and you just have to put on that professional face and do what you need to do for that family and for the family members, and you might go home and you might cry about it. You may let that emotion out about it, but for that moment you stay focused. And unfortunately, like I said, there are always, you can't have one without the other. Some people call it evil and positivity or whatever, but it's positive energy and negative energy, and it's throughout the universe.
And remember, everybody, it starts with each and every one of us. We're the ones that matter. We're the ones that can literally control ourselves. And, just as an aside, I just thought about this, and it really makes sense. You see people all the time that are like this, And we joke about it. We call it the council delegate look. You got to have a big belly and you have to have a frown, all the time.
God.
And the thing about that is, believe it or not, it takes more muscles in your face to frown than it does to smile.
Very true.
So, smiling takes less muscles and it's more fun and it lights up the room. And other people, if they see you smile, you'll get them to smile too.
Not only that, John, but throughout the day when you're out in public, I think it's very important to stop and just the people that you encounter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether it's the maintenance guy or a custodial guy at maybe at a restaurant or something, you tell them, thank you for doing the job you're doing, things like that. You can make somebody's day change to something very positive with just a few words, a few kind words. And we've always said that words, especially among, where how we were raised as Native American people, words are extremely powerful.
Yes.
And if you can just say a few kind words to people that throughout the day, and I think that goes to making that community much more positive, and they go on to share a positive thing for other people. And I think it's important to do that.
Have you
Those
ever
things, positive energy will come back to you.
I was going
have,
to say that as a sergeant, as a lieutenant,
mm-hmm.
and working in a medical manufacturing field, you have to speak to people if they made a mistake. And so anytime you speak to people, right away they assume, okay, there's supervisor speaking to me. I must have done something wrong. And I would make it a habit of going up to people and talking to them and saying, I just wanted you to know that I've noticed that you're doing a really good job. And I just wanted to let you know that I saw it and other people see it too. And all of a sudden it's like this light just comes on and the
Right.
smile comes on. And, instead of if you're in a job where you have supervision authority, go up to people and just compliment them every now and then, just like Stan was saying. Just let them know you appreciate them. And it really changes the dynamics. And now they want to do better. So it's a little psychological, but that's okay.
Have you guys ever noticed when you go to the store, people do not want to talk to each other? We pretty much ignore each other.
I talk to everybody.
I know you do, but I have a business partner. You know who he is, you guys, and he has that Southern hospitality, and he'll talk to everybody. But the one thing I love about his hospitality, he's always saying, "How are you doing today? I hope it's a great day." And he'll either walk on, and people get so surprised when you say, "Hey, how's your day going?" And they look up and they're like stunned. Like even getting that compliment, like, how's your day going? Because we ignore each other even when we see each other in the stores. I mean, it's something as simple as that.
John and I, in our careers, we were firearms instructors, and we train with so many different agencies in the Southwest and other places. And
yeah,
we would see where other instructors would approach their classes like a drill sergeant, where they're putting people down and they're berating people and they're just, and John and I wouldn't do that. John and I would go into our trainings and try to encourage people. If they were doing poorly, we would try to figure out what it is, assess what it is that was going wrong. Yes. And try to help them correct their own issue. And at the end of the day, when they shot possible in our qualifications, they were just elated. They were just and very grateful that we took the time to help them through whatever issue they were having.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting show because we were supposed to have provoking thoughts and UAPs and phenomena. And this is, in a way, it is a phenomena. because we're in a world that we can't understand that kind of behavior. That is a phenomena. That's an unknown. And yet we see it transpiring. And so we have kind of touched on the show a little bit, title.
Yeah.
Well, we can always bounce that title to the next session.
Exactly.
But I think it's important.
Yes.
Like you said, Michelle, it's important in what you experience, what this country and the world has experienced, that we address on some level some of the things that has transpired and how to get through those kind of things, and for the safety of their families.
Some people are afraid of guns, and some people don't want anything to do with them. Guns are here; they're already out there. They're all over the place, and
guns are only a tool. They're no different than a drill or a saw.
That's what that's what I was just going to say. They're a tool. They're just like a hammer. They're like pliers. They're like any other tool that you use, but you have to be trained with them.
Right.
And the thing with guns is that everybody's afraid of them because they see them on TV all the time. And people are, flying through the air after getting hit with a round or something.
Violence is glorified, John.
Well, that's TV special effects, because like a movie like Saving Private Ryan, what they got correct was that when people get shot, they don't go flying backwards; they just drop where they are. And the other thing is that, believe it or not, in the United States, more people are killed with a screwdriver than any other weapon. So are we going to ban screwdrivers? Are we going to make it you have to file a permit to get a screwdriver? I don't think so. They just happen to be handy. The other weapons are kitchen knives because everybody's got them in their drawer. And and hammers are always high on the list. We can't ban those. Guns are already there. We're never going to get rid of them, but we learn how to use the tools to protect others, to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And, I guess we're getting close to us getting off the show again. And, this has been an important subject as to what happened. And I'm glad we're addressing it because it needs to be addressed. And I think sometimes things just don't come at a random reason, conscientiousness of what's going on in our world. We need something not as tragedy to come together, but we need to, like tonight, here's my closing words. Go be with your families tonight. Hug your children. I didn't think I was going to get emotional. Tell a neighbor that you love them. Take their dog for a walk. Do something for your neighbor that you wouldn't normally do.
Right.
But mostly take care of your families because you never know. And
you don't know.
You don't know.
We do need to tell each other that we love each other and that others are important. A lot of times we wait till that person passes, from this world, and then we're grieving and saying, "Oh, I loved you,"
or I wish I had let them
tell
know.
people while they're still here.
Yeah, Bill behind the scenes says, "I swear I love all of you for what you all do. I need this for this positive words of wisdom." And that's to us. And thank you, Bill. We are heartfelt in that too.
We love you too, Bill.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for our audience today.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and thank you for listening
to our. Especially,
it's been a great show.
Thank you.
Been a great
show. See you next time.